what it is. But yeah, so uh, thank you for coming, first of all, and we're going to take a look at your data. So I'm very interested to see what you think. I have a reflection sort of form that we're going to fill out together,
Okay.
and then essentially we're going to talk about what you see, what went well, what we need to work on, and then some next steps. And we're going to do that by looking at your TPM, which I think is a really good piece of data to look at because it kind of gives us a snapshot of the whole trimester.
Okay.
And hopefully this will help us plan what we're going to do either for intersection or the first 4 weeks when we get back from intersection. Sound like a good plan?
Sounds great.
All right, so let's take a look. What do you see right away that you would call areas of strength? What are some things that look pretty good right now?
I'll say definitely there is spelling.
Mhm.
Spelling looks very well, followed by the language composition a little bit.
Yeah.
So those two areas really stick out to me.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you have 10 questions, it's a pretty good number, so you're not getting, um, any skewed data. And I think it's awesome. One of the benefits of the assessment that you're doing is that it does have 10 questions for each type of assessment. I noticed that 16 of your students scored advanced or above on the spelling. 8 of your students did the same thing uh, on language conventions. And I know you didn't talk about these, but in both comprehension and vocabulary, you had 9 students overall who were proficient or advanced too. So even though there's less of them that are doing well, the fact that you have a good chunk of your class, a third of your class is at advanced or better, is really a good, strong start for the year. It's your first TPM. It's the first time the fourth graders have had this length of a test for you. And for the most part, it's probably the first time that they're having to read the vast majority of the tests themselves. So I think it's a good thing that you're seeing that kind of those kind of results already. Um, so, if we look at the three things, I think your spelling is definitely spelling and language conventions are right there. But overall, I think your percentages are pretty good. You have about a third of the class that's at 80% above total, which I think is definitely a good sign. All right, so what about some areas that look like they need some work?
So some areas of work, definitely comprehension.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually traced that back to following the directions.
Okay.
So as I looked at the questions there that some of our students struggled on,
Mm-hmm.
primarily questions 1, 3, they were struggling with directions. So a lot of times the directions would ask for a simple answer in regards to an antonym,
Mm-hmm.
and they gave an answer for a synonym.
Yeah.
So basically following those clear, concise directions and following through there.
That's in the vocab section, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think I saw the same thing, and it's definitely one of those things that you got to make sure they practice reading the directions. Now, did you read the directions to them before they took the test?
I did not.
You did. Okay. So if you look at your models from the CST, what you're going to see is they actually have most of the time those directions are read aloud. But it may not be specific, so you have to make sure you teach your students how to go through and give them a strategy to design that actually lets them see the directions and maybe make sure they underline the parts of the directions that are key. So in this case, opposite rather than same would have been a key piece to underline probably there. Sticking to vocabulary, I also noticed that questions 6 and 7 were a challenge for your students. And when I looked back, those questions asked your students to use context clues. Now, did you give them a strategy to use context clues, or is that something that you had worked on before?
We worked on 4 of the different context clues,
Okay.
like the replacement strategy. We had worked on them.
Okay.
But I need to probably go back and revisit that. Actually, I'm going to reteach that since they struggled on these questions.
What does the replacement strategy look like for you?
Utilizing different words that you can place in that sentence. So
Okay.
also, if you don't know a word,
Uh-huh.
you can utilize the words before that word, and then see if you can figure out if they're using those context clues in that area.
Great. So when you teach them how to do that, are they writing out the sentence again and putting in the new word to see if it fits, or like what are some of the things that you might have them do?
So I have them read the sentence before,
Uh-huh.
where that word is in that they don't understand,
Yeah,
and then I'll read the sentence after,
excellent.
and then I'll have them go back and see if they can replace a word that they know that's in their vocabulary that
Uh-huh.
make sense to that sentence.
Okay, and then can you apply that to the test as a testing strategy of using the four choices?
Yes, I can. I want them to use the right. We went over the four test answer question strategies quite a bit right there.
Okay.
Authoring you and think on your own. So this is more of a thinking on your own strategy. I'm trying to get them to utilize if they don't have a guess.
Great, great. And then, so that was the vocab section, and that again wasn't a tremendous area of weakness. It looks like you had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, about 8 students who were not getting close to mastery. So we've got quite a few students we had 9 students who were at mastery at 80% or above. We had, it looks like 5 students who needed to come up a couple questions to get there. It looks like they needed to answer 2 more questions to get to the 80%, and then you had your last 5, or the last 9. So is this something that you're going to reteach in whole group, or is this something that maybe you can reach those students during intercession? Have you had a chance to create your intercession list yet?
Yes, and of those students that are struggling, I have Shamara, Julian, Angel,
Mm-hmm.
and about 4 other students that are not at the mastery level. They're all participating in the intercession.
So is there anybody that's not at the mastery level that's not going to be in your intercession?
At this time, no.
Okay, so everybody who needs the extra work is going to be there during intercession.
Yes.
So would it make sense to teach those vocabulary strategies to the whole group, or is that something you're going to do individually? Or are you going to work in small groups for that?
So I'm going to work on small groups.
Okay.
But I'm going to do like an overall reteach lesson for them all.
Okay.
And then I'm going to break them up into smaller groups within that section.
Okay.
Based on where they're struggling, based on the test here.
Excellent. What resources do you think you're going to use for that?
I'm going to use that as the reteaching guides.
Okay.
That I have there. ELA reteach.
And have you had a chance to compare that to the test yet?
I have not. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go back and look at, see if we have a different form of the TPM or a different form of the test.
Okay.
And I'm going to utilize those questions to reteach it and get them used to those same directions according to that test.
Cool. Perfect. Okay. So let's, I think that pretty much covers vocabulary. Let's go back into your comprehension. Your comprehension numbers, 9 students are at a proficient or advanced. Then you had 7 students who were borderline getting close to that advanced level, and then 7 students who were not there. Again, are the 7 students who were not there, are they all in intercession?
7 students. Let's see. Of the 7, 4 of them are in intercession.
Which 3 are not in intercession?
I have Jaheem. He's not in intercession.
Okay.
And also I have Kara. She's not in intercession.
Okay. Okay, I see.
And Azaria.
Okay. And now I see Jaheem did pretty poorly across the board, but I think that's because he didn't finish the test. Is that correct, or is it? I'm kind of. Why is he not in intercession with that number? Has he done well in other assessments?
Yes, this is the lowest assessment he's had so far.
Okay.
Typically, he's been at the proficient or advanced level on all his previous tests.
Okay, so this is sort of an outlier for him.
Right.
Do you have any idea why this might be an outlier for him?
Potentially, he was not focused on his test. I had to remind him, redirect him several times to stay focused. So he was pretty much trying to rush through the test.
Okay.
Especially with Halloween being yesterday,
okay,
I had to redirect him. He was
really he seemed to be okay.
Yeah.
All right, I understand that. So it's good though that you have other data that supports that he's mastered these standards. Then, excellent. Okay. Let's look at your comprehension questions. There were 2 types of comprehension questions. One, it asked students to actually make an inference based on the